In football, we often see players getting ranked, rated, and pitted up against one another, with people often going to extremes to prove that one player is marginally better than the other. Such arguments being Messi versus Ronaldo or Van Dijk versus Ramos, to name a few. Although half the time these comparisons can be misleading or irrational, with one player coming off as slightly worse or a lot worse based on the stats that the player in particular posts, when in actual fact it's often not their fault or even a bad thing. I mean, unless the player's actually terrible. I mean, usually it, it's mostly due to other reasons. So let me explain. You see, in football, positions may look the same on paper, but the role the player is instructed to perform in said position will more often than not dictate how they go about playing. For example, in Tuchel's 3-1-4-2 formation at Chelsea with Reece James, Chilwell on the left and right, the back three of Thiago Silva, Rudiger, and Zuma, front two, and the midfield three, with Jorginho sitting slightly behind the other two. Mason Mount and Kante are playing in seemingly identical positions, just right and left. However, it goes without saying these players are vastly different, with one being a creative playmaker, Mount, and the other being a relentlessly pressing box-to-box midfielder in Kante. And this has an impact on the statistics that each player posts, with Mount posting much better progressive passing stats and pass completion rates. Like, he's got 90% pass completion, 90 progressive passes, 92%, 92. Well, this is the percentile, 92nd percentile of passes attempted, 90th percentile of pass completion, 90th percentile of progressive passes for all midfielders, and then Kante having much better interceptions. He's in the 98th percentile for interceptions per 90, the 95th for blocks, and the 92nd for tackle, as well as the 92nd for dribbles completed. This is because he's a box-box midfielder, so he'll be up and down, just tackling people, bringing the ball forward, laying it off, not really sort of dictating the tempo of the play quite like Mount does. Uh, and you see, although both players are said to be world class and both play in identical positions for the same team, the stats that they post are quite dramatically varied. So much so that it would probably be unfair to compare them, right? You know what I mean? Now, these two players aren't compared a lot. But this concept can be applied elsewhere. For example, I personally have seen a large amount of debates going around about who's the best defensive midfielder or number six, defensive pivot. You know the role, just sort of usually sitting just behind the central midfielders, you know, in world football. Names like Casemiro, Fabinho, and Kimmich being usually the three most mentioned. So while at first glance it may seem like these should be fairly easy to compare, with all three playing identical positions, if we look at the stats, we can actually learn a lot about how each of them plays. So stay with me. We can see that Casemiro, for example, firstly, he plays as more of a halfback, which is sort of like a rock. He's like the player who sticks in position, kind of is there to pivot off of, formulate attacks. So he'll be the one kind of getting the he'll be marking the number 10 for the other team. So this means he has 89th percentile for interceptions, 90th percentile for blocks, 95th percentage for clearances, and 95th percentile for aerials. But his pass completion, progressive passes, progressive carries, all that is really like poor. So, I mean, that doesn't mean he's a bad player though. He's got very good defensive stats. And then we look at Fabinho, for example. Fabinho has he's got the stats of a ball winner. So he's the 91st percentile for pressures, the 99th for tackles, and the 91st for progressive carries. So he'll win the ball, bring it forward, lay it off to whoever it is, Wijnaldum, Oxlade-Chamberlain. I know Wijnaldum doesn't play there anymore, but last season this is. And then Kimmich. Kimmich has the stats of a deep line playmaker, so, or like a regista. Sort of not really a regista though. He kind of plays as like a roaming playmaker. He kind of just roams around the field, kind of dictates the play, slows the play down, makes it so that Bayern are firmly in control because they're much better than the teams in the league. So he has High numbers of attempted passes, in 97th percentile for that. He has the 98th percentile for progressive passes and progressive carries. And he's also got a low percentage of pass completion, which, although may look bad, is actually really good because it shows that he takes risks with his passes. Whereas a player like not Kimmich, a player like Fabinho, he'll have 86% pass completion. No, 86th percentile for pass completion. So he'll usually be playing the short passes. He'll bring the ball forward, lay off a short pass, and kind of stay there as a rock. Whereas Kimmich, he'll be moving around with the ball a lot more. Progressive carries are much higher. Dribbles attempted. I mean, he dribbles completed a bit low, but his dribbles attempted, I'm sure, are slightly higher than Fabinho and Casemiro's. So the pass completion actually shows that he takes risks with his passes, unlike the other two. Right. So this kind of is an indicator that all three players, while world class, you can't compare them because they play in different roles. And it's kind of like comparing, at that stage, it's kind of like comparing Alphonso Davies to, I don't know, Insigne, for example. They both play on the left side, but I mean, one's a left back and one's an inside forward. You just don't compare them. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, that was just a short little video. I don't know. I kind of got bored. I wanted to make something. I saw a lot on it. I kind of got inspired. Hopefully you like the new content. I don't know why I made this. I guess I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.